Stop. Stop. Psst. Thank you.
Okay. Recording in progress.
Okay, so we'll call the meeting to order. First on the agenda is minutes from January 8th and March 12th. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks. Okay, first up. Snowden LLC, 575 Depot Street. The applicant has requested to demolish the existing buildings on the property and construct a new Valvoline instant oil change on the property. We'll be testifying tonight. Now, this is a preliminary hearing. Don't have to swear you in. So I guess you just give us an overview of what you're looking to do.
That's right, Steve Wilson, with Bowler Engineering on behalf of the applicant. Yeah, it's a first submission. The plans I'm gonna talk through are very preliminary. We're kind of.
I'm sorry, do we want him to up there? Because there's a lot of people on Zoom.
Yeah,
Good.
thanks.
Yeah, as I was saying, our plans are very preliminary. We were at the DAC at 5 o'clock. We got some preliminary feedback from them. We want to hear from you, I think, as much as we want to explain the project, what your concerns are. We know we got landscaping plans and lighting and grading and drainage and all that that's going to be involved in the process. We're just to get some feedback on our preliminary site plan and preliminary building elevations, as we can craft an application that is acceptable to the town we work with you. So here's pointer, but I don't. So if you want to zoom out ahead, just so you can get Depot Street a little bit further in the picture. Depot Street, yeah, there you go. Depot's right along there on the bottom with Highland there to the right. And the applicant, Valvoline, is looking to construct a 3-bay Valvoline service station. It's on auto repair, it's strictly service, oil, radiator, fluids, wipers, that kind of thing. Our intent right now, we're gonna maintain the existing driveways off Depot Street and the existing driveway off Highland, which would be more of a secondary form of egress and ingress. So if you haven't been to a Valvoline, so you come in and similar to other oil, you come around the back of the property and you queue there into one of the 3 bays. And then you pull in when you're ready, service is ready for you. And you stay in your car, service is carried out, you pay sitting in your car, and then you move out and then you leave the property. So there's not a lot of people getting in and out of their cars, or the operation doesn't work like that. So it's kind of this counterclockwise, I guess with clockwise rotation around the site as people enter in off of Depot and possibly Highland and enter the building and then leave the facility. Want to go to the next page, I can talk about that.
So they enter from they enter from
The top of
the building.
basically, yeah, I want to go back to the site plan.
Existing or?
Yeah, the existing, no, the proposed site plan. There you go.
So you come in on the back side or the front side?
That's right, you come off the backside. That's right.
Off of Highland?
Yes.
It is. Coming here, this would be most people, because I know that this is our main, obviously, this is our front facing street to do this. Now,
Oh, okay.
there's obviously existing driveway there that would be maintained, but this would be more secondary, it's not our intent, to push traffic on here. And the only traffic that would use this would more or less, but potentially entering it, because you can only exit the site here. Once you leave the
Mhm.
building. You want to go to the preliminary building elevations, I can show you what the intent is for the building to look like. There you go. So this would be the top left would be what you see standing, if you're looking at the site from Depot Street. You have the 3 bays, that gable, just to give you some scale, that gable to the left where basically the office and the employee bathroom would be, that's about 29 feet high. And then the the peak along the rest of the building over the bays is about 24 feet high. Footprint of the building is about 2,100 square feet in total. Just to give you some, the total site's about 3/4 of an acre. That square there at the intersection. We got about 194 feet of frontage on Highland Ave. Right now, there's about 1,200 square feet of green space total on the property. We would increase that to about 15,000 square feet, so about a third of the property would become, a little more than a third actually, would become green space. So we could talk as much as you want about operations or the site. Like I said, everything's preliminary. We're here to listen, hear what your concerns are, so we can craft a full application, and get back to you in the future, so.
If the project did go ahead, what would your plans be for Highland Avenue? As far as right now, Highland Avenue coming off 1130 is very tight.
Yes.
If that building did get removed, would you be widening Highland?
Wouldn't be our intent to widen Highland. We don't consider that a primary access. That would be, we really consider Depot Street our access points.
Again, that's always been a tough spot to get in and out of for the residents there and for people coming off 1130 to get on there. And I just didn't know if that's something you'd be.
We're open to discussing anything. I mean, maybe there's options. Some right of way could be provided to the town for like a future widening or entering sidewalks on both. Something like that could be a possibility as long as the rest of our site works, but building town roads or expanding town roads, I don't think would be we would expect to include in the project, but like I hear, we're discussing everything right now.
And what's your hours of operation?
Generally it's, about 10 to 6, I got 8 to 5 that Michael from, Valvoline is here, yes. 8 to 5, 6 days a week.
I'm Michael, Mr. Chair. I'm the applicant for Snowden LLC, and Steve is my professional here with me. Yeah, typically we operate from 8 to 5, 9 to 6, depending on the day of the week. Sundays are usually shorter hours, so 9 to 4, 9 to 3.
Is there a lot of much noise, or with the door shut? Is it what's there for noise? Impact wrench?
It's very low. It's even rare if we're using an impact wrench. They're all just hand tools for the most part. I mean, the loudest tool we're going to use is a torque wrench, and it's set to like 18 foot-pounds. It's not like it's
all inside the building.
Yeah, it's all inside.
And do vehicles, you don't have any overnight?
No overnight. We're not a dismantler. We're a fluid service. We don't have engine out off services. We don't take transmissions out. It's, for Vermont, we'd probably do tire rotations and maybe snow tires if the customer requested it, but that's not our standard business.
What do you do as far as your waste oil and?
Waste oil is typically handled by a large national company called Safety Clean. There's a designated waste oil tank in the basement. It's all collected, including all of the mop water that we use. That's also collected and recycled, and it's pumped and trucked out.
So there's a full working basement, so the crew is basically working up underneath the car, so everything is collected down below.
They stand on like a 3-foot catwalk. It's much safer and easier environment than what like a trench in the floor would be.
Yeah.
Was it this time you have anything about the building, or did you guys?
Yeah, so we discussed a couple of things pertaining to the styling of the building, the overhead doors, but the possibility of shifting the building a little bit, but everything was preliminary at that stage. So the Highland Avenue curb cut, that would be used for what purpose? If the idea is, can you go back to the site map? The idea is to swing around. Is that for, in the event that somebody accidentally drives through, they can exit?
Yeah, I mean, it's an existing driveway, yes. So if you're coming, if you know the area, you could come from the north down Highland Avenue to access the property if you wanted. It's kind of a secondary egress. It's kind of just, I guess our intent was to maintain existing driveways as much as possible.
So in the event that somebody were to pull in and accidentally needed to back out coming off of Depot Street, I guess they're gonna just exit off of Highland. Is that the idea?
You're saying if they came in on Depot and they go, oh, I don't want to go into Valvoline, I'm just gonna, yeah, I guess I could do that. I'm not sure what, yeah. I could do that.
So that's the western side would be
The
just entrance only.
driveway to the left driveway and Depot and the Highland Ave would both be, are right now shown as two-way. You can go in and out of either one of those. The driveway, the rightermost driveway on Depot, that's just exit only.
And I'm assuming all of the green spaces, the new recaptured green space
That's
that
right.
we discussed, so I mean,
That's right. We'll pull up a lot of the impervious and asphalt on the property, so we'll definitely reduce stormwater runoff. Like we talked at the DAC, we'll be able to get, you know, some aggressive landscaping around the perimeter, some street trees, et cetera. Although we have power lines along Highland, so planting large trees along there will be difficult, but, you know, we can look at things along the front.
No, years ago, we had, there was a conceptual plan for that property. And, it was the same thing. They were talking about removal of that building. And I know there was a lot of talk about, the Highland Avenue entrance exit onto 11 and 30. Right now, it's really hard to see.
Yeah.
For one, the building's right there.
Right.
And it's very narrow right there, and you wouldn't have any major tree, you know, it'd just be all low shrubs or whatever, or anything maybe 15 feet in off the road
You talking about a Highland?
on 11 and 30, when you come out of Highland on the right hand, coming out, if you're taking a right, coming out of Highland onto 11 and 30. Right now, it's really tough.
Oh, yeah, you wouldn't want to put a lot of vegetation there. And like I said, there's a row of overhead power lines that run straight up Highland, so you can't put a lot of landscaping under there anyways. Yeah. Not anything big, that is.
And how far off of the edge of the building to Highland, how far is that? It's,
Well, to give you a scale, the building is about 48 feet back from Depot. So there's a dimension there I can't read from here. Can you?
I believe it's like 20 feet.
It's probably about 20 feet.
20 feet.
Yeah.
I just wonder if it moved over. Oh, over that way a little bit more, if you'd have room for some type of screening between the power lines and the building, and still be able to get some screening in. If you were to move the building,
If, what would you see the need for, I'm not saying I just not following you. Screening along the Highland Avenue side, what am I screening from?
well, just people going up, down Highland Avenue.
Oh, okay.
This-
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, there is room to slide it over. I guess as you see where we're positioning on the site the way it is now, we're kind of splitting and having buffer on each side, but the board feels maybe more.
Just,
Yeah.
you could ask, the rest of the
Yep.
board could speak to that as.
Yep. If
No
you
question.
think maybe it makes sense to have a little bit more room on the Highland Ave side, so we can get a little bit more landscaping over there, and we could reduce the left side of the property, yeah, that's something we could look at, for sure.
I mean, I think in my perspective, the line of sight is the most important thing to be gained here. So obviously, anything lower at the end, but I mean, ideally, if we can move the building or shift the building over a little bit and perhaps even increase that that street cut right there,
On
coming
Highland.
onto Island.
You talk about reducing what's shown as the driveway on Highland?
That was at the corner of Highland and Depot.
Yep.
Green space, if that could be narrowed and just be more of a curb cut coming.
Oh, I see. So widen that entrance onto,
That's a tough spot, that
Well,
coming into, going up Highland or coming off of Highland.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
pretty dangerous right there.
and what that would
Pretty
do is that would allow potentially two vehicles to pass by on the RK Mile side. Because right now you can't do that.
we can look at that. Yeah. We had a couple poles there and I guess I'll have to look at that closer, but yeah.
Well, I think the pole is farther back.
I can't remember if there's one right across the intersection or not, but yeah, you might be right.
It's the one, because I looked at it with Jeff Williams, and he liked the idea of trying to widen that a
Okay.
little bit.
Take a look.
There is a pole going up Highland, maybe 25, 30 feet on the left-hand side going up. That might be a tough one to move if you had to, but that's something we could maybe look at. I mean, the design of the building, any questions about?
I
Uh,
don't
we-
know,
it was-
somebody proposed the idea of turning it perpendicular, and I like that idea. So then you don't see, as an entrance into town, you're not seeing.
You mean
Yeah.
seeing it,
But
well,
but the
if it's
concern,
screened, you're talking about seeing it from
As you. enter
11 and
town.
30
Yeah,
side or seeing it
yes,
from the Highland side coming into town?
11:30.
the only concern I have with that is now you're dumping all of that traffic
Yeah.
onto Highland. And
So-
and that road right there is way,
Main-
we're already saying how tight that
Okay.
road is. That's
Yeah,
the
that makes
issue.
sense.
But again, that was my idea. If you did move the building over farther to the west, north or west, then you could plant some screening
Oh, yeah.
between the road and the building. So you wouldn't be looking right at a big,
We can look at that. Sure.
On the northwest corner of your lot there, is that a dumpster?
That's right.
Okay.
And then employee parking is that what those spots are?
That's it. Yes. And the odd visitor that may come for whatever reason.
what's the required parking for that site, Peter? If,
I didn't really put a calculation in.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. This is where the dumpster currently sits on site is where our proposed dumpster is pretty much.
And I know we discussed it at the design, but the proposal for the Firefly building and that, at this point, I know we discussed some possibilities on integrating it perhaps. But other than that, I mean, because you got slate shingles on that could perhaps be utilized on this building or integrate something to kind of soften the impact of this building.
Yeah, we can look at opportunities to reclaim that building somehow and incorporate design elements from it. Yeah, we'll certainly look at that. Yeah, I think if that goes away like you're describing, maybe we can look at some of help fix maybe the radiuses and turning on Highland Ave.
and are your oil tanks, again, that you, use your old oil and antifreeze and all that, they're all triple wall or safe? I mean, they get,
They're in a tank and they're automatically secondary containment because they sit in the basement. And it's basically a big concrete, so they're secondary containment on all of them.
They sit in essentially what's a bathtub.
Yeah.
No drains, floor drains
That's
in or
right.
out of the building. It's basically completely sealed. If there were to be a catastrophic event, it would just be sitting in the basement waiting for someone to come suck it all out.
And you got,
there won't be any floor drains in that.
There are no floor drains, no matter what.
and you have, at most monthly, somebody comes in and pumps all that stuff out.
Yeah, well, so there's a waste oil burner that you can use to help heat the shop during the winter time. But usually it's the recycling company that comes and picks it all up.
What are the truck deliveries? I mean, what's the largest truck that you have coming into the site?
It would be the waste oil truck or the oil delivery truck, and their home heating oil trucks are
Yeah.
the same size as that.
Yeah.
It's not like there's an 18-wheeler back up to deliver.
And they would come in the same way as the customers would?
It would come in on depot, slowly, yeah. I mean, sometimes the waste oil truck would probably pull straight in to the front where the exit is, because you can only tell the driver so many times how the site works, but they do it their own way sometimes. And they run a line basically from the back of the truck all the way into the basement and then connect there.
Any other questions on the board, kind of? Obviously, it's preliminary, so.
Yeah. I have no questions.
Peter, Elias? Any questions from the audience? This is just preliminary, but if anybody's got any questions? Yes.
I just had a question. Yeah, Tim, it's Eileen.
Yes.
I may have not heard this, but the glass doors, was there any discussion of potentially doing something different with those? I know there was, at the design advisory board meeting, it was discussed that the need for visibility, traffic going by needs to see if the bays are being used, if they're open, if they're not, but there was also some discussion amongst us on the DAB. Is there something else that could be done with the doors? Perhaps aesthetic, a little more of a, I don't know, homage to the older building there? Is there some way of making it more like,
We could take a
Anyway.
look at that, but this subject came up at the DAC, and it is important. The visibility into the bays is like a critical aspect of the operating of these facilities, so that the impulse customer that's driving by, he sees, oh, the bays are free, I'm gonna pull in and park, or they're all full, I'm gonna keep going. So having that visibility is important, but I think we can take a look at the garage doors and maybe address some of the aesthetic of them to kind of capture maybe a little bit of historic look.
I think that would be great. I mean, we touched upon it briefly at the meeting earlier tonight. And again, I know this is at this point, it's just ideas and, and everything is kind of on the table, or almost everything is on the table.
And in that vein, it would be probably helpful if something could be created during off hours. It could be closed so the overhead doors aren't even visible to that extent. If you had the glass overhead doors, if there was something else to be able to close it, some sort of a slider to kind of give it more of a,
Basically, it's opaque then, there's no like see-through glass.
I understand, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
So that's what you're saying in off hours.
When it's not open for
That's right.
business, you don't need that glass.
Yep.
Point.
I have a related question. If I'm driving east on Depot and you're looking for impulse business, how can I not add traffic to Highland? I mean, I live around the corner, so I'm concerned about traffic anyway. I think it defies logic to say that traffic won't be impacted on Highland. You're gonna be driving by, you're gonna look in, you're gonna say, oh, there's a bay open, that's exit only. You're gonna go left on Highland, which is already a problem. Aside from all the other issues I have with this, I would ask the committee to really think about that.
Thank you.
There are small children that live right there. Full time.
Tammy,
And you had a question?
Tim, can you hear me?
I've got one question here first. I'll be right with you.
Okay.
My question, I'm just curious, this is gonna take care of Firefly and the gas station next to it?
That's right.
Yes.
The gas station next to it has been fixed up quite a bit. When did you give them notice that they would have to go out of business?
We give them, we're not giving them notice. We don't own the property yet.
This is preliminary.
Yeah, the developer hasn't bought the property yet.
I was curious why they would fix it up. They knew they had to leave.
Hang on, I had on the Zoom there, any question?
Yes, Tim, it's Steve Nichols.
Steve,
Question, have you evaluated, since there is a gas station there, have you done any environmental evaluation of that?
We're gonna do a full phase, we're gonna have a phase one completed on the property, and the tanks and all that would be removed in accordance with Vermont state standards for sure.
And Timmy, fire safety, we're storing that oil for a month in that building. Is there a concern for fire safety?
I would assume that would be under the fire marshal's purview. And
I see.
I'm sure they're gonna have to get a permit for whatever waste oil and how they store it and how they contain it.
Okay. Alrighty, that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Yes, sir.
What's your forecast of customers coming in on a daily, weekly basis?
We'd like to see an average about 40 cars a day. That's what we shoot for. Per day, yeah, per day. It's a low volume business, right? For instance, like a Starbucks or a Dunkin', they're gonna see 80 cars, 80, 90 cars before 8 AM. So it's 3 to 5 per hour.
I was just gonna say, on average, how many does it take for?
About 15 minutes, service typically about 15 minutes.
As the chair of the energy committee, I have to go on record to say burn used oil as a huge terrible.
So I couldn't, what committee?
Energy,
Oh, Energy Committee, thank you.
we're trying to reduce possibilities from burning used oil to be very poor. Terrible.
Anybody else? Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
sure you've done a study on the needs in this area for people to get their cars lubricated and serviced. There are about 10 at least other businesses in this town that take care of it. Where do you see your 45 people coming from?
So that would be a fully matured projection. After, the start, we probably wouldn't see that much volume per day. It would probably be closer to 15 to 20. But, the store would grow. Hopefully, if we provide a good enough service, we can convince customers to come back.
What about the other businesses that already exist?
We would be competing with them.
Just to kind of reiterate and cover, you guys do oil changes and what else would you be doing? Fire changes?
So we service all of the fluids in the vehicle with the exception of the brake fluid. We don't touch brake fluid. So whether it's radiator fluid, transmission fluid, oil, we'll change your wipers. We'll refill your washer fluid. Those are the typical services.
Fire changes, inspections?
We can do inspections. That gets a little bit more difficult with inspections because technically the inspector has to drive the vehicle. So in Vermont, we've sort of stayed away from inspections. But if that rule changes, we would probably be open to looking at it again.
Do you use mechanics or you don't have to use a mechanic to do these facilities?
Yeah, we've technicians, we have mechanics, yeah.
They don't have to be mechanics.
We will teach them.
It does, it depends
Yeah.
how you define mechanic.
Yeah.
I mean, they're mechanics for addressing car fluids, not changing brakes or
Yeah.
rebuilding transmissions.
Any questions? Yes, ma'am?
So we have a store up in Rutland that we've been running for probably 20 years. We actually just got approved in Brattleboro for one, and we should probably be breaking ground on that next month or two here. We're over in Albany, New York. And we operate across 7 states. So most of it's, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. But then we have one here in Vermont.
So when you think of just this specific area. Are there other areas in this
Oh, there's,
immediate zone?
like in Manchester specifically? No, I mean, the opportunity came up to buy this location as it was for sale, and I got in contact with the owner, and this is, now we're here.
So. Somebody's resident of the town, business in that district. The area you're looking at is actually the gateway to the town, when people come into Manchester. And Manchester is recognized as a normal little village. Kind of someplace that has maintained a historic. And this business is a beautiful service, and I can see it being sold. but I don't see it like fitting in that particular community. I feel like it is a totally contrast to like this town has worked on very diligently on maintaining aesthetic. And,
I can say, it's, if I'm not mistaken, Peter, that we're in the town center zoning district, and the town center zoning district is the only zone in the town that even allows this type of a service station as a conditional use. It's restricted in every other, this is the only place in town that could allow this type of
yeah, I think
use.
they work hard to, you know, prevent certain kinds of contrast, you know, I don't know how to describe it. Anyway, I feel like, do you know the town at all? Or maybe-
Yeah, fine.
So there's a, you know, people talk, I work in the bookstore and now I'm in the Vinci, and I feel like people talk all the time about how adorable the town is, and it's such a meaningful gem. And part of that is the work that's been done to kind of maintain and instead.
The goal of this project would be to that wouldn't be to take away from it at all.
Thanks. Any other questions? Got one more there?
What Steve's saying, I feel like that area of town has been pedestrian destination to extend the town for more pedestrian traffic, bike traffic. And as it is, the homes right around that back out into the Highland Avenue to get out of the driveways. So it's already a bypass and that is something that I thought design wise would be a big consideration coming into Manchester and seeing what Rutland or Brattleboro or Bennington have their commercial area where you expect to see all that. And this
It's the historical depot district.
we've had the sidewalks widened, had a new parking lot put in, we've had new lighting put in to extend a lot of these people are business owners down there to get walk-in traffic.
I
So
mean, that has been a garage for years and years and years, the mobile station.
reminds me also, it was just I've been in it 20 years, so I've seen 3 garages. And the last garage, a lot of seasonal tire changing, and it was so nice.
Well, no, again, and they're not there anymore.
Oh, I know. But that's why we talked about all hand tools to change tires, and that, I'm not sure would be the way that cars in 15 minutes are being built, twice a year, they're all their tires changed. So it's, as an art-based building and neighbors who are, I mean, they called it the Soho Center, the Brooklyn, you know, now it's an area of town that has a lot of owners. Zone C3, I think it's called, where you can live and work in your building. It was also 3% of the entire town of Manchester that allowed you to live where you worked. So now we're going to live 50 feet from balcony. And I think that's kind of choosing what our property value is with us too.
Okay, thanks. Yes, sir.
I was at the PAC earlier. I'm a little confused which board I'm at this point. Could you bring up those elevations that were up really quickly at the beginning? I wanted to speak to the elevations off of Depot because I said something at the earlier meetings that I might take back if the elevations, to your point on Highland coming down, coming off of Highland, and Mr. Dillon pointed it out, that if you're coming off of Highland or going up Highland, there's a bit of a blind spot right now. Buildings there, right? But if you in fact have this building set back, and what I'm wondering is there's this elevation doesn't show us how it is relative to Depot Street. So right now, Firefly sits at about 6 feet up. And I think that there's even a retaining wall off Depot Street. And I wonder how that works relative to if you're coming out of those 3 bays down to Depot Street in 40 feet. If you're going 6 feet down in 40 feet, it's a pretty steep hill. But if that building is built down at Depot Street level, I don't know if you're excavating 6 feet out to Depot Street or if you're building it up. And my other point of that is there's a 40-foot height restriction, I believe, in that district. So if you're 6 feet out of the ground already and you have another 40 feet, is it actually 46 feet? I don't really know.
Well, it's from ground level.
Well, what's ground
Right.
level? Is it Depot Street or is it?
I would assume what the building's set on.
That's right.
That,
Those two
Only-
elevations, you'd measure the two, the average.
Only 29 feet at the top of the gable. Yeah.
So if that 40 feet slope down to 6, the Depot Street is actually a slope, it might be an actual easy way to see Depot Street from Highland. Because we're sitting there in a car, everybody sits there in a car and they're staring at the front porch. Or the
That's right.
building.
That's
The
right.
building's gone.
That's right.
And the building, I don't know how long the building is right now, but it's probably 80 feet. So half the building, if you can imagine it, not there.
right.
Because that's the big struggle
But
coming out of it.
the lower left is what you would see on the Highland side.
40 feet back.
That's right. 47 feet back from the street.
And a telephone pole you're talking about, Tim, is potentially 30.
I'm guessing about 30, 25, 30 feet off.
It changes, the whole thing sort of changed dramatically because there's no building. I do think, to Sean Dillon's point, the traffic and Ms. Stewart's point, that maybe twisting it so that that upper left side, this view is actually from Highland. I know it isn't exactly what you guys are looking for, but if the bays came out on Highland and there was a right turn only down to Depot Street.
Yeah. I think Highland's built to handle that kind of traffic.
Built to handle that kind of. And I don't know why the zoning either changed, I was just reading it, but it used to have a requirement that drive-through services have to come off Smith Street. And that was why Starbucks ended up on Center Street, I believe. And it was always a struggle of if we had drive-through businesses.
Yeah, but Dunkin' Donuts doesn't, do-
I know,
that's,
but Dunkin' had a problem with that for a long time,
yeah, but it got approved.
got approved. Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Robin and I own on 46 Highland Avenue, and if you can go back to the photo of Highland Avenue. Yeah, that's our building, red brick one, you know, right off to so-called green space.
Across the street from green space.
We're right there.
It's diagonal, we're green.
Everything everybody's talked about, Highland is extremely dangerous, and means that it's cut more and more, very difficult to pull out. To most of the neighborhood that I went door to door on, I did not hear anyone who was in favor of it. Most people were shocked and disgusted as to, do you really need this? Do you really need to take away jobs from other mechanics who are smaller businesses in town? Taking away a traditional, like our building's 1865, Fireflies building. I know whoever buys it can do whatever they want, but that is an inclusive tavern with rich tradition, which is a New England thing, you know, and it brings people together. You have the most interesting man in the world. You have some of the least interesting people. Yeah, it's a cross section of people. It's not a, you know what I mean? It's not a big high car. Everybody's respectful. You know, we had where that green space was prior to Garden Arts moving in there, which is a conflict, 11 parking spaces for the art lane clothing, the people next, everybody, you know, extra parking down there. That was just disappeared, you know, so that was a problem. Do we really need to have a vowel lane? I mean, we're not Albany, we're not Brattleboro, we're not Bennington. We're a super classy town, and this degrades our neighborhood. It's a historical depot section, big sign right there, where it holds all kinds of standards on design and review, everybody in there. It's an eclectic, artistic, socially cohesive neighborhood. You know, now you're bringing in a big corporate oil changing thing, which is going to put other mechanics out of business. And you're gonna be open on Sunday, so you got 40 cars a day constantly in there. I mean, that is
completely gonna throw the traffic, out of whack on all levels, specifically on Depot Street. We know about Highland, but people, that's a traffic jam to begin with, you got a light right there. The electrical pole that you're talking about, Tim, is directly across from our building at the edge of that green space. And I mean, I could go on, I just think it's just the greatest neighborhood, we don't need it. This isn't what this town's about, why don't we have it, we reject Walmart's, Quiznos, and every other, corporate monolith that wants to come in and, compete, quote unquote, compete. And now you're bringing oil in, and you're storing oil, how close to the back of your RV? How many times has that flooded up the fireflies right there? And that's with ever, climate change, it's gonna get worse. And like I said, I went to the door to door in that neighborhood and did not find anyone who was in favor of this. Not to mention the hundreds of people a week who go to the tavern or get the cheapest gas in town right there. It's a very low impact thing. You have 2 bays there, you have 3 bays red, and it just kills the vibe of the neighborhood, which we're trying to elevate, increase our property values and also pay taxes. And to live in a town that isn't Albany, it isn't Broward, it's not Rutland, it definitely isn't Benny, and my feeling is, we have a lot of faith in this town, in the town government, we vote, and basically, I can just say that the categorically opposed to it. Thanks. Anything new? One more question.
I live in the building between the parking lot and the Valvoline.
What was that again?
I live in the building in between the parking lot and the Valvoline, the black building with the trees, 47 Highland right there, yes.
Okay,
So there's a lot of people who park there and then walk through over to Zoe's or other businesses. So I just don't know where those customers are going to go. If there's crosswalks that are going to be needed. I mean, there's quite a bit of traffic there. I mean, just sitting there every single day, I see people go through either my yard, around our yard, or down the road. So it's just something to be aware of.
Okay.
In general, but other than that, that's kind of one of my only things that I haven't heard spoken on.
Thanks. One more. 2 more.
Wanted to point out that we said no to a tower on Depot Street because we thought it took away from what we were trying to bring to Depot Street and we love that brand. And so I'm kind of surprised that this is being considered.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm gonna put in a plea for saving the old building.
Oh.
Spoke earlier at the design advisory, but Fireflies was Fullerton Store. It's the 3rd commercial building in the depot.
Yeah, we did get a,
Got a thing on it?
we got all that.
Okay. As it's been said before, this is the entrance now to Manchester from the new highway. And we're tearing down a historic building to build New Jersey. Why? It's not the look that Manchester is trying to develop. And I'll say one more contrary thing that probably everyone will disagree with. As using Highland as a bypass is going to get much worse if you widen it. Right now, you've got a traffic calming device. People go, I don't want, it's not worth it. I'm not pulling out there. You widen it, it's going to be the home of the Texas rolling stop in a minute. Because you won't have to slow down, you won't have to look, you just roll right through. So I see, you might, Londonderry did this problem. They got rid of their iron bridge. The state built a nice wide bridge and all of a sudden they had speeding traffic in town. Because they got rid of the bottleneck. I would say, keep it. You don't see little English towns tearing down half the street to get traffic go faster. It is what it is. It's historic. Just slow down and don't use that speed. And keep traffic slow. Don't use it as a bypass.
Yes.
I don't want to throw a monkey wrench in the whole conversation, but for a long time, I owned Tilting Windmills Gallery on the corner there of that street. And I thought many, many times when you have to, you're like midway taking your turn to turn left onto Highland and a big truck comes out, you can't get in. And I wondered why it has never been considered to have it as a one-way street. And then it would have an easy access.
That we'd have to talk to Jeff about.
I think the town has considered that.
Maybe they have. One more,
I
yes.
just want to piggyback on what Robin and Keith said. You guys years ago, about the historic depots signs for the galleries and studios that are back there. You've got Lucci's, you've got the Glass Blowing Studio, you've got Robbins, you've got Tilting of Windmills. There's a new jewelry store, happens to be American Airlines. It's a nice artsy little thing happening in town, and to put an oil change station on the corner doesn't make sense. I think Scott Freeburg building's for sale. That'd be a great place to put an oil change business on 7A where it's already there. To tear down that building, I got no problem with that, but turn it into a green space, open it up, but you don't need oil change the first thing you see when you come to Manchester, certainly not where there's restaurants surrounding it and art stores and galleries. I don't want to be next to it. I don't know, she doesn't want to be making clothing next to it. I'm sure the sandwich shop next door doesn't want to have that there either. It's just not the place in town for it. Sure, we need it, but there's better locations than that. Go by Three Burns Park.
Thanks. Anything else? Okay, so we wanna make a motion recess till the next,
I'll make a motion to recess until the next meeting.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you for the feedback. We'll talk soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have the, do you have the copies that we made? Well, handouts? I think they're over, okay.
Oh, I put them
What do
in
you-
those handouts
Okay,
over
cool.
there so people can grab them. if they
What
want.
you got this morning or?
No, the ones he brought.
Oh,
So
okay.
he has an ordinance that.
Okay, next up, if the rest of you are here for the next hearing, there's a handout up on the table if you want to take it. Hand it out. Whatever, if anybody's got questions.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, next up, Jeff and Christine Spencer, 42 Coventry Lane. Applicants appealing the decision of the zoning administrator to permit a customary home occupation at 493 Canterbury Road. I guess we received letters both for and against the permit that was issued. And as you all know, the board has to treat this according to our view of the ordinance as written. So first we'll hear from the applicant. Second, we'll hear from the zoning administrator. Third, we'll take questions from the board members. And fourth, we'll take questions from the audience. And I'd like the audience, if they have questions, to address the chair and not talk amongst the other people. So that being said, who'll be testifying tonight?
Christine Spencer.
Peter, swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth? Thanks. Do you want to give us your,
Yes, I prepared a little statement. So my name is Christine Spencer.
does that speaker work on there or no?
It should, yeah.
The speaker. Can you hear?
Just for Zoom.
For Zoom.
Oh, okay. As you know, the town requires that group appeals must designate one person, and so I'm speaking as representative of 18 homeowners in the Canterbury Road and Coventry Lane neighborhood who are opposed to the business activity at 493 Canterbury Road.
I don't think the audience can hear you. Do we have a speaker for that or?
I think we have a speaker for it. This is just, it's for the Zoom.
Speak louder.
Yeah.
We
Town
can hear.
requires that group appeals must designate one person, and so I'm speaking as representative of 18 homeowners in the Canterbury Road and Coventry Lane neighborhood who are opposed to the business activity at 493 Canterbury Road. We're here today to appeal the zoning administrator's decision to approve a customary home occupation permit for the standards. You have our complete appeal, but in summary, the restaurant Moonwink, which formerly operated in a commercial zone, has been reopened at their home residence, now operating as a takeout restaurant. There was no permit in place when it began operations, no notice to neighbors, and traffic into our residential area increased considerably. Our neighborhood submitted a letter to the zoning office notifying them of this activity and outlining the town ordinance, which lists takeout restaurant as use not allowed, as well as our deeds, which have an express restriction that parcels shall not be used for other than residential purposes. The zoning administrator acted on our letter by granting the standards and after-the-fact permit for a customary home occupation. However, the category of permit they were granted runs against the type of business they're operating. The ordinance clearly states that restaurants and businesses of a similar nature are excluded from a CHO designation. Therefore, the business at 493 Canterbury does not meet the legal definition of a customary home occupation. Also, our neighborhood is located on a private dead-end road. In addition to the regular patrons, the standards also advertise to the general public on Facebook and more recently the press. This not only brings in traffic that otherwise would not be in our neighborhood, but traffic that routinely travels beyond the subject property, whether they're lost or just looking. This has resulted in traffic volumes which are uncharacteristic of residential use, causing safety concerns and disrupting the residential character of our neighborhood. The governing ordinance is clear that no restaurants, whether eat-in or take-out, are permitted in a strictly residential area. All the residents in our neighborhood relied on that type of restriction, as well as our deeded restrictions when they acquired their properties. Allowing this business activity to continue sets a dangerous precedent, and we respectfully ask the board to uphold the integrity of our zoning laws and reverse this decision. Thank you for your time.
Thanks. Peter.
My name is Peter Brabazon, the current zoning administrator, town of Manchester. Typically, if we get a violation or notice of violation from some community members, what we would do is first act of business, we try to get them back into compliance. And when we look at the property it's a first of all, the customary home occupation is really a residence. It gives the opportunity for Vermonters to conduct their business on a small scale, to earn a living while they're here in Vermont in their own home. The criteria that we use to establish a customary home occupation pursuant to 24 VSA subsection 4412, customary home occupation shall be considered by right to constitute a permitted residential use of property. To qualify as a customary home occupation, the business activity must meet the following criteria, and there's 5 of them. Number 1 is it is carried on by a resident of the dwelling unit. Number 2, it is clearly incidental and secondary to the primary use of the dwelling unit for residential purposes by occupying, or using less than 50% of the livable floor space within the home. Number 3, not more than 2 persons outside the family is employed on the premises in the home occupation at any point in time, except as conditionally allowed per section 6.7.4. Number 4 is no offensive noise, vibration, smoke, dust, odors, heat, light, or glare are produced. And number 5, there are no retail sales unless the items sold are the product of the business owner's own labor. I granted this. I'm sorry, number 6, the customary home business does not affect the residential character of the neighborhood. However, a customary home business shall not be interpreted to include the following commercial: stables, kennels, restaurants, tea rooms, garages, or shops for repair motor vehicles or other trades and businesses of similar nature. I granted this based upon that criteria. And I think that's all I really have to say is I believe that this meets the criteria for a customary home occupation. Thank you.
Questions for either Peter or Christine?
So I guess the first point is, I think that I'm hearing is that customary home occupation is a state law. It's not a local law, it's a state law. And yes, there are criteria around that. And I think when we start discussing the restaurant, it's important to understand what the definition of the restaurant in this, in Manchester, the definition under Manchester.
In our
is-
ordinance.
in the ordinance for Manchester is food and drink. And to my knowledge, does the applicant do food and drink?
Just food.
I just wanted to get an answer there on that.
Any other questions for Don?
No, no.
Any questions for Mary?
I don't.
I don't think they do either.
Eileen?
In terms of questions, the
Any questions for either Peter or the applicant?
Yeah, the only question I seem to have was that there's, in reading through all the material, and granted, it was very comprehensive, there seems to be an issue of that, if I'm not incorrect, that the primary problem the neighbors are viewing is just the impact on traffic and on road conditions. Is that correct? Am I missing something?
Right, a quiet dead end street where no one except residents or visitors of residents typically come. And now the general public is invited into our neighborhood on a daily basis. We see increased traffic, there's people walking, there's kids, we're a very quiet neighborhood. None of these people would ever be in our neighborhood. Our deeds expressly restrict running a business in our neighborhood. And we presented that to Peter first.
If that's in your deed, I think that's more of a civil matter. If you're talking with the town, we don't get involved with civil matters, whether it's association or deed or whatever. That's something you'd have to fight on your own, at a different court, not with us.
But at the same time, the traffic is affecting the residential character of our neighborhood. None of this traffic, we're not a thoroughfare, we're not Ardenville Road, where people are coming and going regardless. They're being invited into our neighborhood, they would never be in our neighborhood otherwise.
I guess with that, could I ask how many vehicles do access the?
All right, so I put together the numbers from when we first opened on February 25th until past Friday, which is the session. We've had 136.
Actually, yeah, can I just swear you in, please?
Okay.
If you're gonna be testifying, swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thanks.
So maybe the podium too for the people on.
I'm not sure.
No.
I'm sorry, Wes.
That's fine.
So since February 25th until May 2nd, which is past Friday, we've got 136 customers to date at our restaurant. On average, it's 2.7 customers per day from 11:30 to 7. So that's it.
Okay.
I can pull a report for you if you need it, but that's the number.
You're under oath, I believe you.
At times, we have counted 5 days per hour.
Okay. So
Okay, hang on.
We counted 5 days per hour. I also have to say, in the beginning, they were heavily advertising. When we filed the appeal, that stopped cold. And I think that definitely slowed. And if this continues, that will ramp up again. Because I don't see, I mean, is it a viable business at 2.5 customers per day?
That's,
Like, is that like where?
that's not, excuse me, hello, hang on, talk to me.
It's 2.5 or 2.7 customers per day, viable business. Is that where they would like to keep the business? Do we
Whether it is or not, that's not,
continue at that level?
whether it is or not, if, we don't have to say whether he makes money or it's a viable business. If that's what he wants to do, if he wants to cook, like if he has one person a day, that's not up to us to say the permits, allowing them to make more or less money. That's not up to us.
But a key cornerstone of the business also is it does not affect the character. And increased traffic that would not be there otherwise, it definitely does.
And again, it depends on the time of year. I mean, there's a lot of roads. I mean, someone could have a party at their house and have 8 or 10, 15 people over for a day, and the town can't say, you're not allowed to have people over your house to visit too, just so you understand that as well. Another question?
Yeah, question, I'm confused. I was trying to figure out what definition of restaurant are we using? Because you're citing a state statute, and then you're citing a local definition of a restaurant, and then people keep calling it restaurant.
Well, the definition, I mean, you can call it, I guess they can call it what they want, but the definition for restaurant is, let me look it up here. See it right there. Restaurant. Any food service establishment subject to Vermont health regulations where food and beverages are prepared.
So they're subject to state oversight from the Board of Health.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would assume yes. Yes.
Yeah, so it's not a restaurant?
Well, it's anytime you cook, any home cooking is subject to state regulations as well. Whether if you home cook or if you're preparing food for people, yes, I'm pretty sure you got to get a state permit. Whether you're making jelly, if you're making jelly at your house and selling it to stores, I'm sure you're gonna have, you have to get a public health license for that.
And I know the deed issue is not your bailiwick.
What's that?
You're saying the deed issue is not your concern?
No, that's not, that's private. Yes.
I guess our other concern is, this was an established restaurant. It moved essentially to a new location. The only thing that changed is the dine-in situation, where there's no dine-ins, now it's just a takeout restaurant. How does that recategorize the same menu, everything? How does it recategorize from a restaurant here to home cooking here?
Did they, well, at the restaurant they sat in and ate dinner, correct? Or lunch?
Sometimes they had closed and they were operating takeout.
And they served, and they served beverages at the restaurant, I would assume? Did you? Okay. And they had a liquor license.
They had a leg.
Any other questions? Yes.
Is this something that can be revisited if it becomes a problem?
It always, I think it always can be. If there's a complaint,
If the traffic situation gets to be very bad, I should imagine that they would really like to cater out. Where you'd be having a party at home for 10 or 12 people and they provide the food.
anytime there's a complaint, the complaint would go to the zoning administrator and he would have to look into it. And make a decision one way or the other. He could bring it back to our board if he thinks there's a problem and we could revisit it. But that's the zoning administrator's decision to do that.
Because I live in back of them.
Yeah.
And I had no problem whatsoever.
Okay. Is there another? Yes?
May and West.
We'll make a better flag.
That's, you're not there, I think next to that.
So as Wes stated, the restaurant opened on February 25th. So if it opened on February 25th, Peter was made aware on February 26th, this home occupancy permit was not granted until March 6th. So they operated for a good week and a half with no permits. And do I feel bad for the hardship that Wes and May have gone through? Absolutely. My husband actually went over and offered Wes help. However, the town of Manchester has a legal obligation to uphold its zoning ordinance. The town invested significant time in drafting and developing this comprehensive rule book. Zoning is a legal process that regulates the use of private property. Given the significant stakes for both landowners and community, these restrictions must comply with state law as established by the legislature and interpreted by the courts. Once adopted, zoning bylaws and subdivision regulations become the law of the town. Local officials must administer them in a consistent and impartial manner to maintain respect for both townspeople and the courts. So this is a Manchester bylaw. Under no circumstances may a zoning administrator approve a development that results in a substantial impact under any of the standards set forth in the bylaws, or approve an amendment that has the effect of substantially altering the findings of the fact of the most recent approval, pursuant Code 4464C. Members of the Development Review Board, the town of Manchester has established its zoning bylaws which permit customary home occupations. However, the bylaws unfortunately lack a specific definition or list of what constitutes such an occupation. Whether it's understandable that the applicants, Wes and May, might seek to categorize their proposed business in this way, the fundamental nature of their operation, a take-out food service, does not align with the typical understanding of a home occupation. Furthermore, upon reviewing the list of permitted and prohibited uses within this zoning district, take-out businesses are explicitly listed as not permitted. Therefore, regardless of the ambiguity surrounding customary home occupations, the clear and specific prohibition of takeout businesses in this zone should be the determining factor in this application. Customary home occupation, accessory use of a residential.
Are you talking about in our ordinance or state ordinances?
This is in the Manchester ordinances, in the bylaws.
Okay.
So customary home occupation, accessory use of a residential unit or property for a small business that doesn't alter the residential character of the property. Now, as Chrissy and Jeff have specifically said, our neighborhood is a very quiet neighborhood. Our homes were purchased for that reason. We all have children, we have pets. There's people constantly walking up and down our road. There's children on bicycles on our road. And this increased traffic does impact our neighborhood. It impacts the safety of our residents. It impacts the safety of our children, the safety of our animals. So services that would fall under this category would be the term customary home occupation typically refers to small-scale business activities conducted within a residential dwelling or on a residential property that are considered secondary to the primary residential use. The key defining characteristics is that these businesses must not alter the residential character of the property or surrounding neighborhood. Again, the road that Wes and May are on is maintained by a private contractor. Everyone contributes to keep that road plowed, to keep that road maintained. So having the increased traffic, it's going to cost more to maintain our road and cost the residents of our neighborhood more money. So general examples of typical businesses that often fall under the umbrella of customary home occupation are professional service-based businesses, often with minimal client visits. Freelance writing, editing, and proofreading, which is work done primarily on a computer. Graphic design, web development. It's similar to writing, but on a computer. Bookkeeping, accounting services, small-scale operations with limited client traffic. Tutoring, one-on-one or very small groups, subjects to limits on the number of students and hours. Virtual assistant services, providing administrative, technical, or creative assistance to clients remotely. Telephone sales, Customer service, small scale, again, where the business does not generate excessive noise or traffic. Having a restaurant next door and having vehicles up and down the road does generate excessive noise and traffic. So how does that fall under the umbrella of a customary home occupation permit? Businesses that typically do not qualify are restaurants or food service establishments with on-site customer traffic, retail stores with regular customer visits, automotive repair shops, barber shops or hair salons with multiple styling stations, boarding kennels or animal grooming businesses with frequent drop-offs and pickups, large-scale manufacturing or industrial activities, businesses that require significant external alteration to the property, businesses that generate excessive traffic, noise, or other disturbances. Again, their restaurant falls into these categories. Members of the DRB, I understand the desire to support local businesses like Wes and May as expressed by Peter. However, I must express my strong reservations about the appropriateness of establishing a takeout business in this residential neighborhood. This clearly deviates from the intended purpose of the zoning district and has the potential to significantly impact its residential character. Given the ongoing efforts to revitalize our downtown area with businesses, why would we consider allowing a commercial venture to operate in a zone where it doesn't belong? Wes and May have the same options available to them as any other business: to purchase a suitable commercial property or to lease a space in a commercially zoned area. While rental costs are a factor to businesses, they do not, in my opinion, justify a departure from established zoning regulations. I urge the board to consider the broader implications of this decision. Is it the town's intention to see a gradual shift of commercial businesses into residential neighborhoods? Do we anticipate an increase in takeout establishments operating throughout our residential zones? Furthermore, I have serious questions regarding the ability to ensure proper fire and safety and health inspector oversight for a business operating in a residential setting without the standard commercial permitting process. I respectfully request the board carefully weigh these concerns and uphold the integrity of our town's zoning ordinances.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes. Oh,
I just got one. I came tonight because personally, I have no problem with somebody having a customary home occupation. I used to run one myself, but I guess the category of restaurant, I'm just curious if the standards are not allowed to run their restaurant there. I live on Martinville Road, a mile and a half down below Canterbury, and less than 2,000 feet from me, there's a takeout pizza kiosk. It's basically the same type of thing running. Now, it's not on a quieter street like Canterbury, and it seems to me that the crux of the problem, most of it is traffic itself. Is there not something that can be done as far as slowing people down? That's the problem. I mean, I don't see how you can tell Wes he can operate his business when you allow the other gentleman down on Farnborough Road to Ascension, they operate the same thing. It's just a question. I don't know, Tim, what's.
yeah, no, we'll take that under consideration.
Learn and, I
No,
want to see fairness.
We'll definitely take that under consideration. Thank you. Yes.
In terms of like, the main crux of this problem, me seems like crap. Okay? I gave you the number.
Yep.
0.7 on that.
Yep.
There was a couple days where there was 5 or 6 people per day over an 8-hour period. We also have a lot of friends that come visit us. Right?
Yep.
In terms of noise, it's, I mean, negligible. We don't make any noise.
Yep.
Next to people that have goats and chickens. There's a guy that lives past our house that has a giant landscaping business that has 15 trucks in and out of his house per day.
Yep.
And, you know, if we want to pick it all apart, we can, but,
No, that's fine.
you know, I mean.
Thank you. Yes.
How many traffic How many visits was Valvoline talking about?
What?
Valvoline talking about?
Yeah, 40.
40 cars a-
40 cars a day.
It's a 10-hour, it's not in residence, 12 hours. Right? I'm just.
It's not rural residential. area.
Yeah.
But I'm still kind of interested.
Okay, if there's any other questions? Wait, oh, one more. I see one there. Yep.
Somebody on
I
Zoom.
was on the lower end of the road. Oh. And my husband and I moved from Weston down to Manchester. And we were looking and we looked hard in Manchester to find the quiet and the peaceful place that we had in Weston. And we found this kind of, this is in 1992. And since then, we've enjoyed, well, I have because my husband has passed, but this lovely neighborhood. And I don't feel that this takeout is proper to be in our neighborhood, because we belong here. I feel like my property value will be changed if this continues. I'm just very concerned because I don't know how long I'm going to be able to stay in this house. For me, so it's just like a lot of people have been talking, it's just the nature of our neighborhood. And it just doesn't belong there. I just wish that they could find a middle table.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes.
Right, could we just repeat the number of cars one more time? Just one more time. So this great increase of traffic, you don't think it has anything to do with the fact that the family just went through a very traumatic medical event and their neighbors are trying to connect? Like.
So that's fine. Well, yeah, no, we understand.
Like, you know, oh, these people wouldn't usually be in our neighborhood. I mean, this is a small enough area where
We understand that. We understand that.
okay.
Thank you very much.
And, you know, traffic, property value area, what's changing? I don't see it. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. And we,
End up on Zoom.
Kim.
Linus?
Kim? Kim? Can you hear us, Kim? It's not.
I'm gonna ask to unmute.
About that.
Oh, I hear
Can
you now.
me now? So, we're on a private road on Coventry. We have maintenance fees. Are you guys, you don't have to take that into consideration when you decide how to, vote on this appeal? Or do you have to take it into consideration that we're a private road and a dirt road and what increased traffic will be? And it doesn't matter that it's 2.6 cars a day today, it could be anything next week. So
understand that.
that's one of my biggest concerns, neighbor. And I do believe it has an adverse effect because the public is coming in and the public could be drunk, on drugs, come to our house, our driveway. Oh, we thought it was the takeout place.
Okay,
We're a dead
Okay.
end road.
hang on. Yes, Kim, sorry about that.
So we're a dead end road. Only the people who live there go on that road. And now by having a commercial enterprise, we're inviting public traffic.
Okay. Yep,
You've never advertised.
that's
And
fine.
we pay for our road. The town doesn't pay for our road.
I understand that, Kim. And we'll take that under
Then the other
advisement.
thing I would like to ask is, how was it approved without having a public hearing?
Because the zoning administrator has the right to approve a customary home occupation. Tier 1.
Without a public hearing with the neighbors?
Yes, tier 2 needs a public hearing. Tier 1 is,
Uh-huh.
In our ordinance, it says can be approved by the zoning administrator.
And he approved it because of why?
I'm assuming because
we
he felt
repeat
it was the
that,
correct
just
thing
for
to do.
clarity?
I'm assuming because he felt
What
that,
did he,
what did you say?
what classification? I still am unclear. This is a takeout restaurant or this is home cooking? What is this?
Well, I'll let Peter explain that, but my assumption of his testimony was home cooking.
It's home cooking. But
Yes,
doesn't
ma'am.
everything that I've read say that you can't sell the home cooking out of your house? You have to take it somewhere and sell it like a farmer's market, for example?
It does not state that in the ordinance.
From my reading, it did, but okay.
There was a section of,
That you have to take it somewhere to sell it.
yeah,
I didn't see that.
I don't know where it was, but I did see that.
Well, we will look into that. We're not making a decision tonight anyways.
Okay.
We're gonna go in executive session and talk about it, but we will take that under advisement.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
When they, because I can't ask Wes. When they started this business, was it known that it was gonna be permanent, or did they plan on temporary? And then, once things got, I was gonna say get back on his feet, but that's not the right words.
So when you,
I mean, this position that we were in when we decided to do this was after talking to the health inspector about doing this, and our health inspector that was actually 7 years at our restaurant. I spoke with him about what our potential options were. He said, think about home catering business to allow you to serve takeout food and prepared food from your house, from your place. I mean, the year that we've had was crazy. We got squeezed out of our place, and then I had, I almost died. I was intubated for 7 days in the hospital for a month. Coming out of that, it's like, we have to do something else. We can't stay here. The building's for sale, we have no lease. This is what we decided to do. So when we decided to do this, I don't know what we're gonna do. If something pops up down the line that makes sense, sure, but,
right.
I mean, it's been quite a year, so I'm kind of taking it day by day at this point.
one more question, there are actually two more there, three more there.
Rebuttal to West being squeezed out of the building, no, that is not correct. In speaking with their landlord,
Well, I'm not gonna get into that.
yeah, they were.
That's your saying, that's nothing to do with this, what we're talking about right now. Yes. Back right there.
Curious if there's been any actual traffic incidents on the road that have been a problem, and if you know how many cars it would actually take to require additional maintenance on the road.
I could not answer that question. Yes, sir?
Let's say that it's doing 5 times better and there's 12 cars a day that go in there. That still seems like, considering you guys that are neighbors already have the comings and goings of equipment and trucks for a landscaping business, and you've been doing that in your quiet neighborhood for all these years.
You can talk to me, sir, don't.
Yeah.
Yep, thanks.
It just doesn't seem to make that much sense that it's that big of a deal, because there's already traffic there. And does the town take care of it? Is it where it becomes dirt road, right where they are?
I do not know that.
All of Canterbury Road.
I don't know. We live on a private road. The standards are part of the private road. As the neighborhood On the private road, we are required to pay towards road.
So you're an association then,
Yes.
is that correct?
It's not an official association.
Road
but
maintenance
we're
agreement.
not involved. Anyone who benefits from private road is expected to pay for its maintenance and snow plowing.
But again,
Used to pay.
okay, again, that's a civil matter, ma'am. That's nothing to do with us. We can't force anybody to pay anything. That's not what we look at.
Technically, our first entrance is on the town road, second one's on the.
Okay. In the red there, you had another question?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I said, oh no, we're just driving around. I want to see where this road went. That's never happened before.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Anything else new? You had something new
One question. When is most of your,
to me?
is your business done mostly at lunch or dinner?
And we're talking about 3 people a day, so it's.
You never know, right?
Maybe a couple,
Okay.
12 to 2.
Well, can't the people, I mean, if this is gonna be a big deal, they can come back and visit this later on. But if you're making, if
We haven't made a decision one way or the other yet. So it might not ever come back to us. So that's, if there is a problem, there is always a zoning administrator. We haven't made a decision one way or the other yet.
well, then maybe they ought to study the traffic pattern and see if it's a problem.
Okay.
before They make a big deal out of it.
Yep, we'll take that under advisement as well. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Is there a motion to close?
Make a motion to close?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all very much, and we'll have probably 45 days. We have 45 days to make a decision, one way or the other. We appreciate y'all coming
Recording
tonight.
stopped.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.